Hello everyone, I'm Alicia. Welcome to my Beautiful Nights channel. For this video, I'm going to show you how to do the Picot beading stitch with beaded fringe. And these are the two designs that I have created here with this stitch. And even though these do look like they are two totally different pieces, the stitch that I did to create these two pieces is exactly the same. And I'm going to show you as I go through this tutorial. Now, I have actually done the Picot stitch in the past, and it is a traditional stitch that's been around forever, and it was always traditionally done with just seed beads. So you do not have to have these beads here that I have to do this stitch. You could use whatever you have at home, seriously. You could just do 11/0 seed beads, and for the fringe, you don't have to do any of the shapes that I have here. You could just do seed beads, seriously. And even though I do have a charm and a bead frame here that I bead it on, you do not have to have these at all. You can bead Picot stitch just about onto anything. If you look it up, a lot of people do Picot stitch onto fabric, like a scarf as a decoration. A lot of the times Picot stitch is done onto the peyote stitch, brick stitch, square stitch. There was a bracelet that I made a while back. It was called Embellish Square Stitch Beaded Bracelet Tutorial, and 3 of the bracelets that I have in the picture I did Picot stitch on. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a picture up now. Okay, so that's one like traditional way of doing it. But because I've beaded for almost 30 years now, I've played around so much with all these different stitches, and I've actually found that Picot stitch is great for a base stitch, and then I work off of that. And you guys probably don't even know this, but I've worked off of the Picot stitch and added so much to it that you can't even tell that the Picot stitch was involved in the project because it transformed so much into something else. So I did a pair of earrings called the Nefertiti Beaded Earrings Tutorial, and the first bead I started with in that stitch was a circle glass ring bead. It was gold, and I started doing the Picot stitch around the ring, and it made this beautiful design. I'm like, wow, this has so much potential. I can do so much to this. So I'll put a picture up of the earrings I'm talking about. Look at the gold ring in the middle, you will see. And then I did matching bracelet to go along with the earrings. So I'll put a picture for that up. Alright, now later on, I love the Nefertiti design so much, I thought I wanted to do that again, but I had 2-hole beads to play with. I think it was 3 different kinds of 2-hole beads, so I made a pair of earrings called Ice Princess Beaded Earrings Tutorial. And I did the Picot stitch, and I started out with the ring in the center, and I went around, added 3mm beads, and I think it was 2-hole gem duo beads. So I used 2-hole beads in the Picot stitch, and that ended up being an even more beautiful design, so I'll put up a picture for that. And then I also did a tutorial that is called Beaded Sugar Skull Ring Tutorial. And I took a skull bead and I beaded around it. I think I did square stitch for the beads around the skull, but as I went to the outer edge, I wanted to do a fancy stitch, so I did the Picot stitch on the edge. And I added beads in between the gaps so that the ring took on a domed shape, so that the skull just looks really good in the ring. So I'll show you a picture of that. And I think one of the last things I made with the Picot stitch was a pair of earrings. It was called the Maharaja Jewel Beaded Earrings Tutorial. And I started working on a filigree stamping. And I did the Picot stitch on the top edge with turquoise colored delicas and 15/0 seed beads, and I just went over the top on those earrings. But the stitch is in there. I just added more and more detail to it, so it's kind of camouflaging. I'll show you a picture of that. I'm going to show you the earring that I created here. So what I did is I had this neat little charm, and because of all of this open space around the outside of it, I realized that I could do the picot stitch onto this. And really, if I wanted to, I could do the picot stitch around the entire charm because of all this open area here. So it's pretty cool. Now I had these teardrop beads and the 3mm druks, and I started stitching with those because I've done a lot of stitching with teardrop beads. I know that they would look beautiful, kind of like petals. And so I did that stitch first, and I had these spaces here, these gaps in between, and I thought, you know what, I should fill those gaps and then I can add some fringe. So that's what I did. After I completed this, I went back through adding beads. I took a little turn here, then I came back and I did the fringe. And as you can see, I played around with different sizes and shapes of beads, and really you do not have to use the same size as I did. You can pretty much use whatever you want. But I do have to say, if you like my earring here and you like my necklace, you can actually replicate this entire design and remake this same exact piece if you want. The only things I used from my stash were 11.0 Miyuki dark bronze seed beads. I used fireline thread. I used soft flex wire for this here, but you don't have to use soft flex. You can use bead string wire, whatever you want. And I used a chain from my stash. I used wire guards and crimp tubes, and that's the only thing I use from my stash. Basic materials. So the materials I have here are actually from Sam's Bead Box. I recently did an opening for this subscription box. If you did not see it, I'll put a picture up now of all of the goodies I got. Alright, so the theme for the month I use is called May 2025 Spa Day. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually link this Spa Day box down there below in the description bar so that you know that you're getting this exact box to make this necklace and earrings. Okay, and then you will also see a link for the future subscription, the future box. Now I got to show you, these are the materials I have left over. I was actually going to make a bracelet, but because I had so much going on in these two pieces, I just decided not to. But I totally had enough materials. And if you're wondering why there's a candy in here, it's because there were 2 candies that came in the subscription, so I just put them in the box so my cat didn't knock them off the desk. But yeah, all these beads came in here. There's a lot left over. You could still do more with this box. There's another frame here, as you can see. And I gotta tell you, if you really want to make something like this with the Picot fringe, the Picot and the fringe, you can make your own wire. You can make a piece like this with wire. So a while back I did a tutorial on gemstone chip wire wrapped bangles. I'll put a picture up for that. Okay, now why I'm talking about that, because I actually made my own wire hoops. I made matching earrings to go with those bangles. So I'll put a picture up for the hoops I did. And if you want to make a piece that's like this, but it's done with wire, I show how to do it in that tutorial. So I'll put a picture up for the hoops in case you want to go and make them. And you can use those hoops to do your Picot on and fringe if you want to. Alright, now you can turn those into actual earrings, or you can leave the ear wire off of the top and make it into a pendant like I did here. And because of how I twisted the hoops, the loops, the wire loops, you can string that straight onto a necklace, or you can turn them sideways, add jump rings like I have here on this one, and you could just bead the edge there. I'm going to go over the necklace real quick with you guys. I'm not going to go into detail of my bead layout because I will have some really nice clear pictures that you can study my pattern and copy it. I do have a seed bead in between all of the beads, except for down here I have 2 seed beads, and my charm is hanging in between the 2 seed beads so that it lays properly when it's hanging on your neck. And I went through a lot with these 2 pieces. these are not the way they are when I started. I have some work in progress pictures I'm thinking about showing it to you guys. When I was working on this pendant here, I actually wanted to use the crystal quartz teardrop with this. So I was going to have the flower with the frame, the fringe, and I was going to put a teardrop, the teardrop crystal here, and I was going to use the amethyst bead. So I'll put a picture for that. And instead of doing the chain on the back of the neck, I was also thinking about doing the 3mm amethyst beads. And the reason why I did not is because these are such nice quality. They're perfect for weaving, and so I thought, I feel like that's a waste. I would rather keep those for weaving and do a chain at the back. And not just that, but it adds more interest, and also it made it easier for me to adjust this to my neck because it was so long. I want it to be super long. I want it to sit just right. So that's also part of why I did the chain, and I'm very happy with the choices that I made. And also, whenever you're doing fringe, especially if you're doing it with different sizes and shapes of beads, I found it's best to take head pins and put your beads onto head pins and lay them down on your pendant after you already stitched up the picot stitch. So I'll put a picture up for that. And there was even at one point where I had more teardrops and the 3mm on both sides of this earring and the pendant, and then I realized I didn't have enough teardrops, so I had to decrease the amount. So yeah, I tried different things. So, alright, so I'm just going to pick this up real quick and show you a little close-up of it, and like I said, I will have some really nice clear pictures. Chain that I use is soldered. Every link is soldered shut, so that's great because it's a heavy necklace and it's going to be very strong. So I use soft flex bleaching wire. I use wire guards, even though I really didn't need them, and I use soft flex crimp tubes, and the copper soft flex crimp tubes are really thick walled, so I had to flatten them. I could not fold them. Okay, and this is my little pattern here. Seed bead in between all the beads. I use them as spacers. Now this drop bead here is not flat on both sides. It's flat on this side. But do you see how this side is thick here and this side is like thin? So I made sure that I laid them properly, and I have the amethyst beads in between. I almost used less of these, but when I did, I actually went down the 2 on each side. I thought it looked weird. So all 10 was definitely the way to go. And see here how I have my pendant in between 2 seed beads so that it sits just right when you wear it. It's actually perfectly centered in the ring here, okay? So I will have a really good picture of this, the pattern, if you want to copy all of that. And like I said, use head pins to make yourself a pattern, alright? So I think that's pretty much it. Let's dive into this. Here's the list of materials you will need to make a pair of earrings or a pendant. So if you're doing the earrings, you will need to cut 2.5 foot lengths of either 8-pound or 6-pound thread. I usually do fireline, but I've been using this a lot in nanofill because I have a ton of it in my stash. Again, you will need to cut 2.5 foot lengths of thread to make these earrings. Now for this pendant, because it is bigger, you will need to cut 5 foot of thread for the pendant. Or if you're doing really large hoop earrings, or you could even do this on a keychain ring, I mean, possibilities are endless, so you would probably want about 5 feet of thread, okay? For the other materials, you're going to need a size 10 beading needle, and you're going to need something to bead on. This could be a charm, a pendant, an already made frame. You can do some kind of a ring. You can make your own wire hoop. You can use hoop earrings, already, made hoop earrings that you have in your earring box, whatever. You can do different kinds of rings. You can do jump rings, keychain rings. I mean, anything that you can attach the stitch onto, it will work. Alright, so yeah, find something to bead on. You're also going to need, and again, reminder, this is materials I'm using from the kit. You don't have to have these. You can use whatever you want, different kinds, shapes, sizes of beads. I mean, you could pretty much use anything to do the Picot stitch and the fringe. It's amazing. That's why it's so great. So I'm using 19 3mm beads. These are also 3mm. So I actually have 17 of these, I think, and 2 of the 3mm in cube. So same size, just different shape. I'm also using 5 to 6mm teardrop beads. Okay, so if you actually have a little bit smaller, they might work. And maybe if you have bigger, they're probably going to work. You're going to need 2 6mm bicones. These are the amethyst gemstones. Okay, and you're also going to need 3 6mm Czech glass file polish beads. And these here, you're going to need 2 7 to 8mm beads. So these might have been 7.5 on the list, I don't remember. You're also going to need 1 8mm bead, and this is the counts to make one earring because you can only make one at a time. So if you're going to make a pair, you're going to double your materials. You're going to need 11 seed beads. I use miyuki, but you can probably also get away with Czech. And you're going to need an earring finding. And so I have my 2.5 feet of thread cut, and I'm going to pick up my charm, and I'm going to tie my thread on right here underneath of the flower. Right here. Now if I had more teardrop beads, I could go up higher, or if I wanted, I could tie it up here and go around the entire thing, but I would need more thread because I already have this design planned out. But the possibilities are totally endless. So I'm going to go through here, okay, and because of how I designed my pendant and the earring, I'm going to refer to pictures of how I did the pendant. So I'm going to make sure that my knot is going to be on the right side, and I'm going to stitch in this direction and then back, and you'll see as the pictures go, it'll make sense. Okay, so I'm going to tie an overhand knot, and I just want to leave a 6-inch tail. So I'm just gonna go like this, find the 6-inch mark on my ruler here. Okay, and I need my knot to fall here, I think. Is it a 6-inch tail? A little bit more. A little bit more. I gotta pull it. Alright, there's good. Okay, so make sure that I'm on the bottom of the flower right there. I went over and under once. My tail is 6 inches. I'm going to go over and under twice. This is a surgeon's knot. And pull it down. Okay? And pull it tight. And there we go. Now we just start stitching. So I hold it like this, and I pick my beads up. Now you're going to want the point of your teardrop to touch this. So you have to go through the point of the teardrop. Okay, and then one of your round beads, 3mm, and then your teardrop. But you have to go through the round side. So like this. You only, when you pick up at the very beginning, you're only going to pick up 3 beads, and then after this, you pick up 2 every time as you stitch around the Picot stitch. Okay, so slide those down all the way like this. Take the needle, go underneath of your charm here. Slide these beads down, okay, and good grief. I'm trying to hold it like this and put this needle under here because they don't want to sit right when you don't slide them down. Okay, so then when I pull the thread through, see how they go like that? So that's why I had all the beads slid down. Okay, and then you just go up this bead, and what you're doing is your thread is looping around this frame and it's catching the metal there. So you pull this up, and because of their amazing teardrop shape, when you pull this tight, and you push them together, look how they look. They're so beautiful. So that's it. That's pretty much the stitch right there. Now, you have to pick up around this time, okay, and then your teardrop, and you have to go up through the rounded side like this, because it's going to sit like this. So I go like this, okay, and you don't have to worry about the rest of the beads you put on. It's just the first three that are a little fussy because of the teardrop shape. If you did seed beads, they wouldn't fuss with you. Okay, so like that. I'm going up through the teardrop, and the thread's going to catch onto my charm, unless I did not go underneath of the wire there. So I pull this tight and I smush my beads together. Make sure that they are sitting properly together. Now with the pendant, I wasn't sure if this was going to be centered or not, but I knew it didn't really matter because I can reposition this once I made it. So I think I actually started over here, like on the side, stitching it. So it was off to the side. So I just pushed the picot stitch centered, and then I added the other beads, and it was just fine. And even right now at this state, you can push this left or right, but you have to force it. Okay, you have to take both your hands and force it to move. So it's not going to move unless you make it move. Make sense? Okay, that's what I have. I'm going to do this all the way around. So again, pick up a round 3mm, or even a bicone. You can use a 3mm bicone where I'm using this round at. That would also look pretty. Go underneath here. Okay, just like this, and go up the bead. It's so simple and easy, but it's satisfying. Okay, so like that. And again, I'm just gonna use these beads up here. Go underneath. Through the teardrop. Okay, stop. And I could tell that I have just enough room to add another teardrop to the bottom of the flower, so I'm going to slide that over a little bit. Okay, pick up my last round for this row in my teardrop. Like this, go underneath. Okay, see how that did that? So just push that over and go through here. Pull it tight. Okay, and you should now have this. And this is what my pendant looked like. This frame here, okay? It looked just like this. So I'll show you a picture of the progress of after I did this, where I was at in my pendant. Only thing is the bead counts are different, so I did 6 teardrops, and I think the pendant, I think I did 10 teardrops. You'll see in the picture. Alright, now what I have to do is fill in the gaps so that I can do the fringe. Okay, fixing my thread. I'm going to pick up one seed bead, and I'm going to go through right here. I'm filling in this gap. The 3mm bead is too big to go here. It just looks weird. Okay, just like that. And then for the rest of the gaps, I'm going to do a 3mm. And I'm going to do this all the way to the other side. One at a time. Okay, I have one more left. Put it right here. And then I'm here at the end, and I'm going to put in one seed bead. So that means I have to stitch up through the teardrop. So I'm going to go like this. Okay. Now I'm going to stop here and show you where my progress would be at if you were making the pendant. So I'll have a picture for you. Okay. So it's pretty much exactly the same. Now what I'm going to do is I need to get my thread to come out so I can pick more beads up. So I'm moving my tail here down to the left. I'm going to put my needle back here, pull this through. I have to flip this over, and I'm going to sew back into the teardrop. Okay, and then I have to sew through the 11-0 seed bead. Okay, and we're going to sew through the first 3mm bead. Just the first one. Okay, I'm going to try to come out on the top. And there we go. Like this. Now what we have to do is put our fringe on. So I'm going to put a picture up of the pattern that I decided to go with for the pendant. And I did head pins because it was so much easier than just doing one fringe and then doing another one, and then I got to a point I'm like, this looks terrible. So I started using head pins to design my pattern first. And then if I liked how it looked with the head pins, I would then pick those beads up. We went through that seed bead and the first 3mm, okay? So when you come out of the 3mm, you have to start picking up your fringe beads. So for the earring, I did a seed bead, a cube bead, and you don't have to do cubes, you can do the rounds if you want. I did a seed bead, a 3mm round. I did a seed bead, an amethyst bead. Okay, now here's the point where you decide how you want the bottom to be. Some people do one seed bead at the bottom and then they sew back up. I don't think it looks as fancy to me. If that bead were to break, and some seed beads do have an air bubble that goes up through a side wall of the bead. You don't see it with opaque beads, but with transparent beads, especially if they're larger 6mm, sometimes there will be an air bubble that will go up the side wall, starting at one side of the bead all the way through the other, and sometimes that could be a weak point in the bead and break. So, I don't like it with one seed bead. I don't think it's all that interesting. I love it with 3 seed beads at the bottom. I think it looks more decorative. Even when I do like flower dangles, because fringe is amazing. These here would have been awesome for bell flowers. So if you have bell flowers in your stash, do bell flowers. And also if you have leaves of the center hole, you can do those too right above it. There's so many options. So for the end, I like to do 3 seed beads, but you can do 1 if you want. You can also do a different color. Okay, so I'll slide all these down. Here is my pattern. So what you got to do now is hold not the 3 seed beads, but these here tight against your work, because we are going to go through all of them. Okay, like this. So I hold them tight against my work. See that? I push the needle through, and holding them close, I bring this down. See my beads? Okay, and then I hold the big bead at the end and I pull this through so there's no visible slack right here. Okay, this is my tail. Is it twisting? It's twisting. Okay, so this one up here is my tail. Now what I have to do is reposition my needle to add more beads. So I just went back up. That's our first fringe. I'm going to go through the next 3mm and through the same one. We're going through the same one in this direction, so it's looping around, and I'm going through the next one. Okay, pull it through. Now you probably could do fringe on this one if you wanted to, but because my beads are bigger and they're not all seed beads, I decided to have spaces in between. So see how I have beads coming off of this one, and then there's nothing, and then beads coming, and then nothing, beads, nothing, beads. So if you were doing seed beads, each bead could have fringe on it, but if you do that, you probably will need more thread, so then you would probably want to cut 3 feet of thread. But like I said, because my beads are wide, they're larger beads, I wanted space in between. Just something to think about. Okay, now also, see how we have beads that are recessed into the teardrops? This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Those are the first ones we added. The ones that are sticking out are the newer ones. So I can't come out of here. I have to go into this next round. Okay, and this is a mistake I would make as I was watching TV. I would forget to go through this bead, and I would put the fringe on. I would complete it. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta undo it again. Okay, so now I'm gonna add some more fringe right here, and it's going to be a seed bead. This bead here, I think they call this barrel shape. I don't remember. I call it rice or oval. Seed bead, that it's a fire polish bead, seed bead, and a 3mm, a seed bead, a 6mm, oops, and 3 seed beads. Like this. Slide them down, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to skip over the 3 seed beads and go through these ones here. Okay, make sure you go through all of them. And I hold it like this. I pull the needle through. Looks like that. Sometimes there's a little slack down here, so I hold the large bead at the end and I pull my tail, and it makes it tight. Now I have to go in this direction to add more beads, so that means that I need to go back through the same exact bead I'm coming out of. Okay? And the bead that is beside it. See? And I can't stop here. I have to go through the next one, because this one's sticking out. I have to be in the one that I added in the beginning. Okay, so through there. And I only have 5 fringe dangles on this earring. Now you can play with these, adjust them. Okay, sometimes these look great, but sometimes like this would want to stick out in that direction. That means you need to adjust your thread. So if yours is doing that and you're still on that, what you do is you put the needle in here and you pull the thread and you wiggle it, and you'll wiggle it into place. Give it some slack, adjust, and you'll get it. Okay, we're in the center now. So I'm going to pick up a seed bead, a 3mm, we're on this strand here, a seed bead, a 6mm, seed bead, 3mm, seed bead, my fancy center bead, and 3 seed beads. That's what I got. Slide them down. Bring those down, go through these beads. So the fringe is the same. We do this all the way until there's no more fringe to make. Okay, like this. Okay, I'm going to hold this. Oh, my round bead got away. Okay, hold that round bead at the end, the end bead. Pull it until it tightens up. And now I have to reposition my needle to pick up more beads, and I have to go this direction, so I have to go through the same bead that I'm coming out of. Okay, and then the bead next to it, like this, and you'll see my little green thread on the left and right side of the bead. Now this here, I feel like it could be more centered in the bead. It's my middle dangle, so I'm going to do what I told you. What I do is I put the needle in this center teardrop and I pull it up, and it gives a slack down here, and I just wiggle it and I adjust it till it looks the way I want it to look. I don't know which thread I'm pulling. I think I'm pulling my tail. Okay, so like this. Okay. I got it. Now I'm going to the next bead to add more beads. And my thread came off my needle. Alright. Oh, by the way, did you know, if you feel like your eyes are too small on your needle, you can actually get a paring knife and split your eye open just a little bit more. Paring knives are really thin blades and they work. Okay, there we go, 3 dangles. I'm going to do this again, and I don't know if I should fast forward. I'm doing the same thing. I just did it 3 times in a row. You're going to do the same exact thing. Pick up your beads. Okay, I'm going to do this same exact dangle here. So that is a seed bead, this bead, seed bead, 3mm, seed bead, 6mm, and 3 seed beads. Like this. Don't go through the first 3. Go through these larger beads. Hold it between your fingers as you pull this through. Hold on to the large bead at the end and pull it tight so there's no slack. And then you're going to take the needle and go into the same bead you're coming out of and into the next bead beside that. So see? I just loosened that up. Okay. There we go. Like that. Now I have to go through the very last one, and this is my last dangle, and I do it the same exact way I did the other ones. And doing this does use a lot of thread up, so when I did the pendant, I have 9 dangles on this, 9 fringes. So when I got done there and I started doing that, it really ate the thread up. Yeah. Alright. Pick up a seed bead, 3mm cube. So I guess I miscounted the beads. Don't know how I did that. It's actually the first time I've ever miscounted the beads, which I guess is pretty good. I'm picking up a seed bead, a 3mm cube, and a seed bead. I'm doing the 3mm round, a seed bead, my amethyst bicone, and 3 seed beads. What I think I did is I had made my earring with a teardrop here on each side, so I had to have 2 more of those at the bottom, and I guess that I forgot to take them out. I think that's what I did wrong. Yeah, because if you look at my pictures in progress, I actually had more teardrops down here, but I realized that I couldn't do extra. My thread came off my needle on the sides because I didn't have enough to make 2 pairs of earrings and a pendant, so I had to use less teardrops, which means that I actually only have 3 teardrops left over in my box. Okay, so here are my beads again. I'm going to slide the first 3 down and go through these here. Hold them between my fingers. Pull this through. Hold on to the last large bead, pull it tight. Take the needle. I came out of this bead, right? I have to go back through that bead. Like this. Okay, so it does this little flip thing. And you can adjust this down here to make it sit better. Okay? Like that. Okay, I'm going to show you how to tie this off. It's pretty easy. I went through this 3mm bead. Okay, I'm going to have to go up because I have to turn around. So I'm just going to go up the seed bead and the 3mm. My my thread is wrapped around the bottom of the flower, so I'm going to go through here, and then I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to go down the teardrop and that seed bead. I'm going to go into this end bead here, again. Okay, I'm going to go down one seed bead like this, and I'm going to start tying my knots in front of the larger beads. So I just go around, making a loop, pass through this twice. I stick my finger in the hole or the needle, but I do prefer the finger. I pull this loop in front of that bead where I want the knot to sit, and I pull this down. Okay, and then I sew through 2 beads, and I tie another knot here. I sew through those 2, I tie another knot in there. I turn around, I sew back up, and you think, oh, the holes are going to be clogged. They're actually not, because I've already done this and they weren't. And then I go in this direction, and I go down here and tie knots. And if I can, I'll turn around and I'll go back up. But yeah, you're just going to tie a few knots and anchor your tail into the work and cut it off, and then you have to put your earring finding on. And I just did this ear wire because this is what I had that matched these charms. I had these in my stash. Okay, and there you go, finished. So I hope that the video was very clear. I hope that I made sense and that you can do the pendant. I realized it would kind of be silly for me to film how to put this together, and it's kind of confusing because of the pattern. For me, it would be super long video, so I thought it just made sense to go back and forth between the necklace, the pendant, and the earring, showing you we're doing the same steps, but I thought the pictures would just be easier and faster for you to study the pictures of the pendant. Alright, so this is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Remember, this is a kit. It is Sam's Bead Box, May 2025. Spa Day is the theme. I will link this down there below in the description bar, and I'm also going to have the subscription. So if you didn't like this month's box, you can subscribe for next month's box, but we have no idea what it's going to be. It's going to be a surprise, but I'm excited for the next one. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, we are still collecting donations for a new video camera. In this corner over here, you'll see the full screen button. It's a square. If you click that, it'll make this full screen. Below that is a circle with 3 dots. And if you click that, you'll see super thanks there. You can donate towards the new camera that way, but YouTube takes 30% of what you give me. And so really the best way to donate is down here below in the description bar. You will see Cash App and Venmo, and when you donate there, all of the money goes to the new video camera. Alright, so this is it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and make sure you click the bell button so that you get notified whenever I upload new videos, and follow me on my social media sites. Thanks for watching. I am going to go film 2 more videos now.